Most people go to sleep every night believing their day has ended, unaware that one of the most powerful periods of creation has just begun. While the conscious mind grows quiet and the world fades into darkness, another force remains awake, active, and intensely receptive. It is the part of you that has been shaping your results long before your circumstances ever appeared. It is the silent architect behind every success, every limitation, every opportunity you recognize, and every possibility you overlook. The astonishing truth is that your future is often being programmed while you sleep. The life you experience is not simply the result of effort, intelligence, or luck. It is the reflection of a paradigm operating beneath conscious awareness. A paradigm is a collection of deeply ingrained beliefs, habits, emotional patterns, and assumptions that dictate how you perceive reality. It influences what you expect, what you pursue, what you avoid, and ultimately what you receive. Most people attempt to change their lives by changing their actions while leaving their paradigm untouched. They fight visible results without addressing the invisible cause. Think about it. Why do some individuals repeatedly create opportunities where others see obstacles? Why do some seem naturally confident while others constantly question themselves? Why does abundance flow towards certain people while scarcity appears to follow others? The answer is rarely found in external circumstances. It is found in subconscious conditioning. Long before a person earns wealth, develops confidence, or achieves mastery, they first become someone capable of producing those outcomes internally. Every thought you repeatedly entertain leaves an impression. Every emotion you repeatedly experience strengthens a pattern. Every belief you accept becomes a lens through which reality is filtered. Over time, these impressions form your self-image, and your self-image becomes the invisible boundary of your results. You will never consistently outperform the image you hold of yourself. You may temporarily exceed it, but eventually you will return to what feels familiar, because the subconscious mind always seeks consistency between identity and experience. This is why sleep holds extraordinary potential. As you drift from wakefulness into deeper states of consciousness, the analytical barrier of the conscious mind begins to relax. The constant internal debate slows, resistance weakens, the subconscious becomes more accessible. The same mind that defends old limitations during the day becomes far more receptive at night. What enters during these moments can penetrate deeper than you realize. Imagine planting seeds in fertile soil. The quality of the harvest depends entirely on the quality of the seeds. Your subconscious mind operates in much the same way. It does not argue with repetition. It does not evaluate every idea for accuracy. It accepts what is emotionally reinforced and repeatedly impressed upon it. If you fall asleep dwelling on fear, frustration, resentment, or lack, those become seeds. If you enter sleep with images of possibility, gratitude, confidence, and purpose, different seeds are planted. The subconscious grows whatever you consistently provide. Many people unknowingly use their final moments before sleep to reinforce the very conditions they wish to escape. They replay disappointments. They relive arguments. They worry about bills, setbacks, and uncertainties. Then they wonder why their lives continue following familiar patterns. The subconscious cannot distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a physically lived one as clearly as the conscious mind can. Emotion gives instructions. Repetition provides reinforcement. Together they create conditioning. What if the last thing you experienced each night was a vivid picture of the person you are becoming? What if you felt the emotional reality of confidence before falling asleep? What if abundance became a familiar feeling instead of a distant hope? What if success stopped being something you chased and started becoming something you identified with? These questions are more powerful than they appear, because every transformation begins with identity. There was a woman named Sarah who spent years working in a small administrative role. She was intelligent, hardworking, and dependable, yet she constantly felt invisible. Promotions passed her by. Opportunities seemed to appear for everyone except her. She believed her problem was a lack of qualifications, but the deeper issue was hidden beneath the surface. Her self-image was built around being overlooked. She expected others to recognize her value while secretly doubting it herself. One evening, after encountering ideas about subconscious conditioning, she made a decision. Instead of ending each day focused on what was wrong, she began spending a few minutes before sleep imagining herself as confident, respected, and capable. She pictured herself contributing ideas with certainty. She imagined receiving opportunities naturally. Most importantly, she allowed herself to feel worthy of those experiences. Nothing changed immediately on the outside, but something profound shifted within. Weeks turned into months. Her posture changed, her voice became stronger, her decisions became clearer. She stopped seeking validation and started expressing conviction. People responded differently because she was different. Eventually, she moved into leadership positions she once believed were beyond her reach. Looking back, she realized the transformation did not begin when others recognized her value. It began when she changed the image she carried of herself. Her external results simply caught up with her internal identity. This principle extends far beyond career success. It influences relationships, finances, health, creativity, and personal fulfillment. The subconscious mind continually works to make your experiences match your dominant beliefs. If you see yourself as powerless, life will appear filled with forces controlling you. If you see yourself as capable, opportunities for growth become visible. The world often mirrors the assumptions you repeatedly project into it. There is another layer many people overlook. Your emotional state carries a frequency. Every thought generates emotion, and every emotion influences perception. When you consistently dwell in gratitude, possibility, and purpose, you tune your awareness toward opportunities aligned with those states. When you live in fear, doubt, and frustration, your attention narrows and possibilities disappear from view. The external world may remain unchanged, yet your experience of it changes dramatically. This is why emotional mastery matters. The goal is not to suppress negative feelings or pretend challenges do not exist. The goal is to become conscious of what you are feeding your subconscious. Every night presents a choice. Will you reinforce old patterns or install new ones? Will you strengthen the identity tied to your current circumstances or nourish the identity connected to your highest potential? Your life is not a fixed reality waiting to be endured. It is a dynamic expression of consciousness, continually evolving through thought, belief, and decision. The person you become tomorrow is being shaped by the impressions you accept today. Sleep is not merely recovery for the body. It is an opportunity for renewal of identity. It is a doorway through which new paradigms can enter and old limitations can quietly lose their grip. As you close your eyes tonight, remember that the subconscious mind is always listening. It listens to your assumptions. It listens to your emotional patterns. It listens to the story you tell about who you are. The question is whether that story reflects your limitations or your potential. The moment you consciously choose a greater vision of yourself and impress it upon your mind with faith and feeling, a new future begins forming beneath the surface. One day you will realize that the transformation you searched for was never waiting in circumstances, opportunities, or permission from others. It was waiting in the hidden territory of your own consciousness. And the night you deliberately planted a new image of yourself was the night your destiny quietly began to change. If this message resonates with you, subscribe to Proctor Mindset Lab and begin transforming your mind today. The remarkable thing about transformation is that it rarely announces itself when it begins. There is no trumpet sound, no dramatic signal, no visible line separating the old version of you from the emerging one. The deepest changes happen beneath the surface, in places no one can see. Just as roots grow silently before a tree rises above the ground, your subconscious mind reorganizes itself long before physical results appear. This is why so many people abandon the process too early. They expect evidence before belief. They want visible proof before they commit emotionally to a new identity. Yet every meaningful achievement follows the opposite sequence. First comes the internal shift, then comes the external manifestation. The world you see is always the delayed reflection of the world you have been cultivating within. Have you ever noticed how two people can encounter the same circumstance and produce completely different outcomes? One sees possibility while the other sees limitation. One takes action while the other hesitates. One interprets a setback as feedback while the other interprets it as failure. The difference is not found in the event itself, The difference is found in the paradigm through which the event is perceived. Your paradigm is like an invisible operating system running in the background of your life. It determines what appears reasonable, what feels achievable, and what seems impossible. It quietly influences your choices every day. Most people never question it because they mistake it for reality itself. They assume their current beliefs are objective truths rather than conditioned interpretations. But what if many of the limitations you accept are not facts at all? What if they are inherited assumptions? What if they were absorbed years ago and have simply been repeated so often that they now feel real? The subconscious mind does not care where a belief originated. It only responds to what has been accepted. A child who repeatedly hears that money is difficult to earn may unconsciously develop resistance to wealth. A person who experiences rejection may construct an identity around unworthiness. Someone who witnesses constant struggle may internalize the idea that success requires sacrifice and suffering. Years later, these beliefs continue operating automatically. The person may consciously desire abundance while subconsciously expecting scarcity. They may seek confidence while secretly identifying with self-doubt. They may dream of freedom while remaining emotionally attached to limitation. This internal contradiction creates frustration because the conscious mind and subconscious mind are moving in opposite directions. That is why the moments before sleep are so valuable. During this transition between waking consciousness and deeper subconscious activity, you gain access to the very mechanism responsible for your current results. You are not merely resting. You are entering a state where new assumptions can begin replacing old ones. Imagine falling asleep each night with a clear vision of the person you intend to become. Not a fantasy, not wishful thinking, a genuine emotional experience of your future self. You see yourself making decisions with certainty. You see yourself handling challenges with calm authority. You see yourself creating value, contributing meaningfully, and attracting opportunities naturally. Over time, something extraordinary begins to happen. The image stops feeling distant. It starts feeling familiar. And familiarity is one of the subconscious mind's most powerful forces. Human beings naturally move toward what feels familiar and away from what feels foreign. This explains why people often recreate circumstances they claim they want to escape. The known feels safer than the unknown, even when the known is uncomfortable. A person may desire financial abundance, yet if scarcity feels familiar, they may unconsciously sabotage opportunities. A person may desire healthy relationships, yet if emotional chaos feels familiar, they may repeatedly attract conflict. A person may desire success, yet if struggle has become part of their identity, they may create unnecessary obstacles. The subconscious mind always seeks alignment between experience and self-image. Therefore, the real objective is not merely to achieve new results. The objective is to become familiar with a new version of yourself. This is where many personal development teachings remain incomplete. They focus heavily on goals while overlooking identity. Yet goals are temporary destinations. Identity is the source from which behavior emerges. When identity changes, actions change naturally, decisions change naturally. Habits change naturally. You no longer force yourself to behave differently. You become someone who behaves differently. There is a profound difference. Consider the frequency you bring into each day. Every morning you awaken carrying the emotional residue of your dominant thoughts. If your mind has been saturated with worry, your awareness searches for evidence that confirms worry. If your mind has been conditioned toward possibility, your awareness begins noticing possibilities that previously went unseen. The opportunities may have always existed. Your perception simply changes. This is one of the hidden laws governing human experience. You do not experience reality exactly as it is. You experience reality through the filter of who you believe yourself to be. When your self-image expands, your world expands. When your expectations rise, your behavior rises to meet them. When your internal standards increase, your choices begin reflecting those standards. The transformation appears mysterious to observers because they only see the results. They do not see the countless subconscious shifts that occurred beforehand. Every great accomplishment is preceded by an invisible psychological evolution. Long before someone builds a successful business, they begin thinking like a creator rather than a consumer. Long before someone develops confidence, they stop asking for permission to believe in themselves. Long before someone experiences abundance, they stop identifying with lack. The external world follows the internal blueprint. This understanding places tremendous responsibility in your hands. It means you are no longer merely reacting to life. You are participating in its creation. Your thoughts matter, your assumptions matter, your emotional patterns matter. The images you repeatedly impress upon your subconscious mind matter more than most people realize. Tonight, as sleep approaches, consider the possibility that your future is closer than it appears. Not because circumstances are about to magically change, but because the source of those circumstances exists within you. Every belief can be revised. Every paradigm can be altered. Every self-image can be expanded. The person you aspire to become is not waiting somewhere outside of you. That person exists as a dormant possibility within your consciousness right now, waiting for recognition, reinforcement, and expression. And each night, as the conscious mind grows quiet and the subconscious becomes receptive, you are given another opportunity to awaken that possibility and bring it closer to reality. There is a moment that arrives in every genuine transformation when you begin to realize that your greatest challenge was never the world around you. It was the invisible conversation taking place within you. For years, perhaps without noticing, you may have been carrying assumptions that quietly dictated the boundaries of your life. Not because they were true, but because they were familiar. The subconscious mind has a tendency to preserve what it has accepted, even when what it has accepted no longer serves your growth. This is why awareness is such a powerful force. The instant you become conscious of a limiting belief, you separate yourself from it. You stop identifying with it. Instead of saying, "This is who I am," you begin saying, "This is something I learned." That distinction changes everything. What has been learned can be unlearned. What has been conditioned can be reconditioned. What has been accepted can be replaced. Many people spend years trying to change their circumstances while remaining emotionally loyal to the identity that created those circumstances. They want greater abundance but continue feeling like someone who lacks. They want confidence but continue rehearsing insecurity. They want freedom but continue defining themselves by their past experiences. The subconscious mind receives mixed instructions and produces mixed results. The breakthrough begins when your inner world becomes coherent, when your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and self-image start moving in the same direction. A tremendous amount of energy is released. Internal conflict diminishes. Decision-making becomes easier. Opportunities become clearer. Action becomes more natural. What once felt difficult begins to feel inevitable. Think about how much of your daily behavior occurs automatically. The way you speak, react, interpret situations, and make choices is often governed by subconscious programs. You do not consciously decide every response. Much of life is operating on mental patterns that were installed long ago. The question is simple. Are those patterns carrying you toward the future you desire, or are they pulling you back toward a familiar past? Every night presents a unique opportunity to influence those patterns, not through force, but through repetition and emotional acceptance. The subconscious mind responds most powerfully to ideas that are repeated with feeling. Emotion is the language it understands best. Facts may inform the conscious mind, but emotions instruct the subconscious. This explains why a single emotionally charged experience can alter a person's life more dramatically than years of intellectual understanding. The subconscious remembers what is felt. It remembers what is repeatedly experienced internally. If you repeatedly experience yourself as capable, worthy, creative, and resourceful in your imagination, those emotional impressions begin forming new pathways within your consciousness. At first, the change may be subtle. You might notice yourself speaking differently. You might notice greater certainty in your decisions. You might find yourself taking actions you once avoided. These small shifts are not random. They are evidence that your self-image is evolving. And once the self-image changes, everything begins changing around it. Imagine a thermostat controlling the temperature of a room. If the thermostat is set to a certain level, the environment adjusts accordingly. In many ways, your self-image functions like a psychological thermostat. It regulates what feels normal in your life. If your internal setting is programmed for limitation, any temporary success beyond that level may feel uncomfortable. You unconsciously return to what matches your identity. But when the internal setting changes, an entirely different reality becomes possible. You no longer struggle to maintain growth because growth feels natural. You no longer chase confidence because confidence becomes part of who you are. You no longer pursue abundance from a place of desperation because abundance begins as an internal state before it becomes an external condition. This is one of the most misunderstood principles of success. People often believe that abundance will create gratitude, confidence, and peace. Yet the opposite is frequently true. Gratitude, confidence, and peace create the mental environment in which abundance can flourish. The inner state precedes the outer result. There is a reason some individuals remain calm during uncertainty, while others become overwhelmed. It is not because they possess special advantages. It is because they have developed emotional mastery. They understand that circumstances may influence them temporarily, but they do not have to define them permanently. Emotional mastery does not mean becoming emotionless. It means refusing to surrender your identity to temporary conditions. It means choosing who you are regardless of what is happening around you. It means recognizing that fear can be present without controlling you. Uncertainty can exist without weakening you, and setbacks can occur without determining your future. The subconscious mind learns from consistency. Every time you respond from your higher identity instead of your old conditioning, you strengthen a new pattern. Every time you choose possibility over limitation, responsibility over blame, faith over fear, you reinforce a new internal standard. Eventually, a fascinating shift occurs. You stop seeing yourself as someone trying to change. You begin seeing yourself as someone who has changed. That distinction is profound because identity drives behavior far more effectively than effort ever could. When a person identifies as healthy, they naturally make healthier choices. When a person identifies as disciplined, disciplined actions become easier. When a person identifies as abundant, they begin noticing opportunities, solutions, and resources that previously escaped their awareness. The subconscious mind works tirelessly to maintain consistency between identity and action. This is why the most important question is not, what do I want? The deeper question is, who am I becoming? Every thought you entertain before sleep contributes to the answer. Every image you hold in your imagination contributes to the answer. Every emotional state you repeatedly cultivate contributes to the answer. Your future is being shaped long before it arrives. The extraordinary possibilities you seek are not reserved for a fortunate few. Human potential is far greater than most people have been conditioned to believe. Within you exists creativity that has not yet been expressed, courage that has not yet been tested, wisdom that has not yet been fully trusted, and potential that has not yet been fully realized. The tragedy is not that people lack potential. The tragedy is that many never give themselves permission to access it. They remain loyal to outdated paradigms long after those paradigms have ceased serving them. They continue telling old stories while hoping for new outcomes. They continue looking at themselves through the lens of who they were instead of who they are capable of becoming. But the moment you consciously begin planting new ideas into your subconscious mind, especially during those receptive moments before sleep, a different future begins taking shape. Not through chance, not through luck, through the deliberate cultivation of identity. And as that identity strengthens, you may discover something that changes your understanding of success forever. The life you have been trying to create externally was first waiting to be accepted internally. The opportunities, confidence, abundance, and fulfillment you seek do not begin in the world around you. They begin in the unseen territory of consciousness, where every lasting transformation is born. The deeper you explore the nature of the subconscious mind, the more you begin to understand that life is not happening to you nearly as much as it is happening through you. This realization can feel uncomfortable at first because it removes many of the excuses that people use to explain their circumstances. Yet it is also liberating because the moment you recognize your role in creating your experience, you reclaim your power to change it. Power does not come from controlling every external condition. No one can do that. Power comes from understanding the relationship between consciousness and reality. It comes from recognizing that your perceptions influence your decisions influence your actions, and your actions influence the results you eventually experience. At the beginning of this chain sits a belief, hidden, unseen, quietly directing the entire process. Most people never investigate the beliefs that govern their lives. They question circumstances, they question other people, they question opportunities. Rarely do they question the assumptions through which they interpret those things. Yet assumptions are often the true source of limitation. Suppose someone believes that success belongs to other people. They may never say those exact words aloud, but the belief operates beneath awareness. Every opportunity will be filtered through that assumption. Every challenge will appear larger. Every risk will feel more threatening. Every setback will seem like confirmation that they were never meant for more. Now imagine another person who believes that growth is their natural state. Challenges become lessons. Obstacles become invitations to develop new abilities. Failure becomes information rather than identity. The external conditions may be similar, yet the outcomes become dramatically different because the internal framework is different. The subconscious mind is constantly seeking evidence to support what it already believes. This is one reason people become trapped in cycles they cannot explain. They are not merely observing reality, they are selectively noticing aspects of reality that reinforce existing assumptions. A person who believes the world is filled with opportunity notices doors opening everywhere. A person who believes opportunities are scarce notices every closed door. A person who believes they are capable sees possibilities. A person who believes they are limited sees barriers. Neither person is seeing the whole picture. Both are seeing reflections of their conditioning. This is why changing your subconscious programming is not about pretending reality is different than it is. It is about removing distortions that prevent you from seeing possibilities that have always existed. The goal is not self-deception. The goal is expanded awareness. Consider how often your imagination is used against you. Many people spend enormous mental energy visualizing what they fear. They imagine rejection before it occurs. They imagine failure before they begin. They imagine worst-case scenarios with extraordinary detail and emotional intensity. Then they wonder why confidence feels difficult to sustain. The imagination is one of the most powerful creative faculties available to human beings. It can build limitations or possibilities. It can strengthen fear or strengthen faith. It can reinforce an old identity or help construct a new one. What separates extraordinary achievers from average performers is often not talent, but imagination directed with intention. They see themselves succeeding before success becomes visible. They emotionally connect with a future that others dismiss as unrealistic. They rehearse possibilities so consistently that it begins influencing present behavior. The subconscious mind responds to these repeated impressions. Night after night, image after image, emotion after emotion, a new internal reality begins forming. Eventually, what once felt impossible starts feeling expected. Expectation is a force far more powerful than most people realize. People often receive exactly what they expect, not because expectation magically alters reality, but because expectation influences behavior, perception, persistence, and decision-making. When you expect growth, you continue longer. When you expect solutions, you search more effectively. When you expect progress, you recognize opportunities that others overlook. The future begins changing the moment expectation changes. This is why your final thoughts before sleep matter so much. They often become the seeds from which tomorrow's perceptions emerge. The subconscious mind continues processing long after conscious awareness fades. While the body rests, deeper levels of the mind continue organizing information, reinforcing patterns, and strengthening dominant ideas. Imagine ending each day not with worry, but with certainty. Not certainty about exactly how everything will unfold, but certainty about who you are becoming. Imagine falling asleep with a profound sense of trust in your capacity to grow. Imagine feeling gratitude for possibilities that have not yet materialized. Imagine emotionally identifying with your highest potential rather than your current limitations. What effect might that have over weeks, over months, over years? The cumulative impact would be extraordinary because transformation is rarely the result of one dramatic moment. It is usually the result of repeated impressions compounded over time. Small shifts in thinking become larger shifts in behavior. Larger shifts in behavior produce different outcomes. Different outcomes reinforce new beliefs. The cycle begins feeding itself. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. A single night of intentional subconscious conditioning may inspire you. 100 nights can begin changing you. The subconscious mind responds to sustained influence. It learns through repetition. It accepts what is consistently reinforced. Eventually, the new identity gains momentum. Then something fascinating happens. You stop trying to convince yourself that you are capable. You know it. You stop hoping abundance is possible. You expect it. You stop wondering whether you deserve growth. You recognize growth as your natural direction. These shifts may appear subtle, but they alter the entire trajectory of a life. There comes a point where the person you used to be no longer feels familiar. The fears that once controlled you lose their authority. The doubts that once seemed convincing begin sounding distant. The limitations that once appeared permanent reveal themselves as temporary constructions of thought. You realize that many of the walls you encountered were never physical barriers. They were psychological boundaries. And psychological boundaries can be expanded. This realization marks the beginning of a new relationship with yourself. You stop viewing potential as something reserved for exceptional people. You begin understanding that human potential is universal, though rarely fully expressed. You recognize that greatness is not necessarily a matter of superiority. It is often a matter of alignment, aligning thought, belief, emotion, and action toward a meaningful vision. Every night becomes an opportunity to deepen that alignment. Every night becomes an opportunity to strengthen the image of who you are becoming. Every night becomes an opportunity to replace unconscious limitation with conscious creation. The world may tell you that change is difficult. The subconscious mind reveals a different truth. Change becomes difficult only when you attempt to create new results while protecting an old identity. Once identity begins evolving, change becomes a natural consequence. And perhaps the greatest secret hidden within these quiet hours is this. While you sleep, you are not merely resting from the life you have lived. You are preparing for the life you are ready to create. The question is whether you will leave that process to chance or whether you will participate in it deliberately, shaping your future one thought, one feeling, and one night at a time.
One of the most important ideas to understand about personal growth is that your life is not controlled primarily by what you consciously want. It is controlled by what you subconsciously expect. This can be difficult to accept because most people identify with their conscious thoughts. They believe that if they want success, confidence, wealth, or better relationships, those desires should naturally lead to those outcomes. Yet countless people sincerely want a better life, while continuing to produce the same results year after year. The reason is simple. The subconscious mind is far more powerful than the conscious mind when it comes to behavior. Think of the conscious mind as the captain of a ship and the subconscious mind as the engine room. The captain can give instructions all day long, but if the engine room is programmed differently, the ship will continue moving in the direction of the deeper programming. This explains why people often know exactly what they should do but still fail to do it. A person knows they should save money, but they continue spending impulsively. A person knows they should exercise, but they continue avoiding movement. A person knows they should speak up confidently, but they remain silent in important situations. The issue is rarely a lack of information. The issue is subconscious conditioning. Most behavior is automatic. Research and observation consistently show that much of what we do each day happens through habit and learned patterns, rather than deliberate decision-making. The subconscious mind stores these patterns and runs them automatically, allowing us to function without consciously analyzing every action. This is useful when the programming serves us. It becomes a problem when it doesn't. Imagine someone who grew up hearing phrases like, "Money doesn't grow on trees," "Rich people are greedy," or people like us never get ahead. Those statements may seem harmless, but repeated over many years they can become subconscious beliefs. As an adult, that person may consciously desire financial freedom, yet deep down, wealth may feel unfamiliar, uncomfortable, or even morally questionable. Without realizing it, they may reject opportunities, avoid risk, undercharge for their services, or make poor financial decisions. From the outside, it looks like bad luck. From the inside, it is often subconscious programming. The same principle applies to confidence. Many people believe confidence is something you either have or do not have. In reality, confidence is often connected to self-image. Self-image is the collection of beliefs you hold about yourself. It answers questions such as, who am I? What am I capable of? What do I deserve? What is normal for someone like me? Most people never consciously ask these questions, yet their answers influence every area of life. Imagine two people walking into the same job interview. One sees themselves as capable, valuable, and qualified. The other sees themselves as inadequate and uncertain. Both may have identical skills. Both may have similar experience, yet they will communicate differently because they are operating from different self-images. The first person naturally makes eye contact, speaks clearly, and presents themselves with certainty. The second person hesitates, doubts their answers, and unconsciously signals insecurity. The difference did not begin in the interview room. It began in self-image. One of the most powerful truths in success psychology is that people tend to behave in ways that are consistent with how they see themselves. If you see yourself as unhealthy, you will struggle to maintain healthy habits. If you see yourself as disorganized, you will unconsciously create disorder. If you see yourself as someone who always struggles financially, you may continue making choices that reinforce that identity. The subconscious mind seeks consistency. It constantly works to align behavior with identity. This is why changing behavior alone often fails. A person may force themselves to act differently for a short time, but unless the self-image changes, old patterns usually return. Real transformation occurs when identity changes first. Instead of saying, "I am trying to become confident," a person begins seeing themselves as a confident individual who is still growing. Instead of saying, "I am trying to be disciplined," they begin identifying as someone who follows through on commitments. These shifts may sound small, but they create profound changes in behavior. Another important concept is how beliefs are formed. Most beliefs are not created through logic. They are created through repetition and emotion. If an idea is repeated often enough and connected to strong emotion, the subconscious mind tends to accept it. This happens throughout childhood. It also happens throughout adulthood. The media you consume, the conversations you have, the stories you tell yourself, and the emotional experiences you repeatedly focus on all contribute to your belief system. For example, imagine someone experiences several business failures. Those events by themselves are neutral experiences. However, if the person repeatedly tells themselves, "I am not good at business," that interpretation may eventually become a belief. Over time, that belief becomes part of their identity. Soon they stop taking opportunities because they believe they are not capable. The original failure is no longer the problem. The meaning attached to it becomes the problem. This is why awareness is the first step toward change. You cannot change a pattern you cannot see. Begin paying attention to recurring thoughts. Notice situations that trigger strong emotional reactions. Listen carefully to the stories you tell yourself. Whenever you hear phrases such as, "I've always been this way," "I'm not the type of person who can do that," "People like me never succeed," pause and examine them. These statements often reveal subconscious programming. The next step is conscious replacement. Once a limiting belief is identified, begin introducing a new idea, not one you cannot believe, but one that stretches your current perspective. Instead of saying, "I am a millionaire," when it feels impossible, try saying, "I am learning to think and act like someone who creates financial value." Instead of saying, I am fearless, try saying, I am becoming more confident every day. The subconscious mind responds best to ideas that feel believable while still encouraging growth. Finally, support the new identity with small daily actions. This is where many people miss the process. They focus only on thinking differently. But identity is strengthened through evidence. Every small action becomes a vote for the person you are becoming. If you want to become healthier, take a short walk. If you want to become more confident, speak up once in a meeting. If you want to become financially responsible, save a small amount consistently. The action may seem insignificant. The identity shift is not. Each action sends a message to the subconscious mind. This is who I am now. Over time, these messages accumulate. The old self-image weakens. The new self-image strengthens. And eventually, what once required effort begins to feel natural. That is the true goal of subconscious reprogramming, not forcing change, but creating internal alignment. When your beliefs, self-image, emotions, and actions begin working together, growth stops feeling like a struggle. It becomes a natural expression of the person you have decided to become.